The first time I met her mother, the air in that pretentious little cafe felt thick with unspoken words. The kind of place my wife, no, my then girlfriend, adored, where the espresso was bitter enough to make your jaw clench and the dim lighting hid more than it revealed. Her mother sat perfectly still, her manicured fingers tracing the rim of her untouched cappuccino. She wasn't just looking at me, she was studying me, like I was a puzzle she needed to solve before her daughter came back from the restroom. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm. Too calm. "You seem like a good man." A pause. A sip of air, not coffee. "Just be careful with my daughter." I remember the way my stomach dropped just for a second. Not because I thought she was right. No, I was too smitten for that. But because of the weight behind her words. This wasn't the usual hurt her and I'll kill you speech. This was something else. "She's been hurt before," she continued, her eyes flicking toward the hallway where her daughter had disappeared. "She doesn't always react the way other people do." I nodded, smiled, brushed it off. What did I know? I was in love. Love makes you stupid. Now, years later, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., her side of the bed cold and empty, I replay that moment. The way her mother's knuckles whitened around her cup, the quiet urgency in her warning. I wish I had listened, but I didn't. And that was my first mistake. The first 6 months were a drug. She had this way of pulling me into her orbit, spontaneous road trips at midnight, leaving cryptic notes in my coat pockets, laughing like I was the only person who truly got her. The sex was electric, the fights even more so. She'd scream, throw something against the wall, then collapse into my arms sobbing 20 minutes later. "I've never felt this way before," she'd whisper, fingers digging into my arms just shy of painful. "You make me crazy." I thought it was passion. The red flags were there, but love makes you colorblind. Like when she'd vanish for entire afternoons, phone switched off, then reappear with some flimsy excuse about losing track of time. Or how she'd cycle between calling me the only good man she'd ever known one day, then accusing me of just like all the others, the next over some imagined slight. The first time I asked about her ex, she went very still. "He was unstable," she said, picking at the label of her beer bottle. "Started saying crazy shit about me at the end. Had to block him everywhere." I pressed, just lightly, and her whole demeanor shifted. The warmth drained from her eyes. "Why do you care?" she asked, voice sharp. "You trying to find some way out already?" I backed off, told her I was just curious. That night, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, wearing my favorite dress of hers, a bottle of expensive whiskey in hand. "Let's not talk about the past," she murmured against my lips. "You're my future." I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. Looking back, the signs were all there. The way her stories about her ex never quite added up. The way she'd isolate me from friends with, "You don't need them. You have me." The suffocating intensity that felt like love but burned like possession. But love isn't supposed to leave bruises, even the ones you can't see. I learned that too late. The wedding was perfect. That's the cruelest part. Looking back at the photos and seeing how happy I was. How blind. She wore ivory lace. I wore a grin that stretched from ear to ear. Her mother watched from the front row, face unreadable. The shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. First, it was the phone. She'd always been protective of it, but now she kept it face down. Password changed weekly. If it buzzed while we were in bed, she'd roll away to answer, her body forming a wall between me and the screen. "Just work stuff," she'd say, but her nails would dig into the sheets. Then came the new friends, people she'd reference casually but I never met. "Oh, you'd hate them," she'd laugh when I asked to join their dinners. "They're my escape from adulting." The anger was the hardest to ignore. A misplaced grocery item could trigger a tirade about how I didn't respect our home. One evening, I came home 20 minutes late from drinks with an old college buddy, the last friend she hadn't convinced me to distance from, and found our wedding photo shattered against the wall. "I waited," she screamed, eyes wild. "I sat here wondering if you were dead in a ditch or fucking someone." I started walking on eggshells, tracking her moods like weather patterns. Sunny mornings could turn stormy if I used the wrong tone. Cloudy afternoons might clear if I brought her favorite pastry, but only if I guessed the right flavor. The worst part? She always made it my fault. You're so sensitive, she'd sigh when I flinched at her outbursts. If you just loved me better, I wouldn't get like this. I found the first hidden bank statement 6 months in, a withdrawal for $5,000 to some account I didn't recognize. When I asked, she cried, actual tears, about how she'd been saving for a surprise anniversary trip. I apologized for ruining it. That night, drunk on reconciliation sex and cheap champagne, she whispered something that should have chilled me. You're stuck with me now. I thought it was sweet. Now I know it was a warning. The night everything shattered started with a single notification. I'd been washing dishes when her phone lit up on the counter. A text preview flashed, "Miss you, babe. Tomorrow, same place?" From someone named Rachel. My hands went numb under the soapy water. She was in the shower when I picked up her phone. The passcode had been the same for 3 days. A record. The messages with Rachel spanned months. Flirty banter, hotel room selfies, plans to meet when she told me she was working late. The bathroom door creaked open. Steam rolled out as she emerged, towel wrapped around her. Her smile died when she saw her phone in my hand. Who the hell is Rachel? My voice didn't sound like mine. Her face cycled through emotions. Shock, calculation, then cold fury. You went through my phone? She advanced on me, dripping water on the floor. After everything I've done for you? The argument escalated like a brush fire. She called me paranoid, insecure, said Rachel was just a coworker joking around. When I quoted one of their explicit messages verbatim, she threw a vase against the wall. You want out so bad? She screamed. Go! See if anyone else will put up with your bullshit. Her chest heaved, eyes glittering with something beyond anger. But remember, half of everything is mine. I slept on the couch that night. At 3:17 a.m., I heard her whispering to someone on the phone. He knows about Rachel. No, not everything. I'll handle it. The next morning, her mother appeared unannounced. She took one look at my sleepless face and the broken vase shards still on the floor. No hello. Just 3 quiet words as she walked past me. Now you understand. That was when I knew Rachel wasn't the first, and if I didn't act soon, I might not be the last. I found his number scribbled on the back of an old utility bill in her handwriting, the only piece of him she hadn't erased. For 3 days I stared at those digits, my thumb hovering over my phone screen. What could I possibly say to this stranger? Hey man, did my wife destroy your life too? The call connected on the 4th ring. Hello? A man's voice, wary but alert. My mouth went dry. I think I'm married to your ex. Dead silence. Then a sharp inhale. Christ, you still alive? The question hit like a gut punch. Not, how did you get this number? Not, who is this? Just, you still alive? Like he'd been expecting this call for years. I found texts, I blurted, from someone named Rachel. But I think, let me guess. He cut in, voice suddenly urgent. Flirty but vague? Never sends pictures? Always wants to meet at weird locations? A bitter laugh. There is no Rachel. That's her burner account. She used Chris with me. The room tilted. All those months of messages, the hotel selfies I'd never actually seen. Why would she... Document everything, he interrupted. Emails, texts, bank records. Hide copies somewhere she can't touch. His voice dropped to a whisper. And listen carefully. I didn't leave her. I escaped. You need to do the same. The line went dead. That night, I pretended to sleep as she slid into bed beside me. Her fingers traced my shoulder blade, the same tender gesture she'd used our first year together. Now it made my skin crawl. You've been quiet, she murmured against my neck. Everything okay? I kept my breathing even. Just tired. She hummed, lips brushing my ear. Sweet dreams, baby. The words dripped with honeyed poison. As her breathing evened out, I replayed the call in my head. I didn't leave her. I escaped. The way he'd said it, not angry, not bitter, terrified. For the first time in our marriage, I understood real fear. Not the quick flash of anger when she screamed, not the anxious tension before social events. This was bone-deep primal terror, because now I knew Rachel wasn't the other woman. Rachel was the trap. I waited 3 weeks before making my move. 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal while I quietly gathered evidence, bank statements, screenshots of Rachel's messages, recordings of her outbursts. I stored them in a locked cloud folder under a dummy account, just like her ex had advised. Then she disappeared. No warning, no text. Just gone. The first night, I told myself she was working late. The second night, I called hospitals. The third morning, as I was about to file a missing persons report, she walked through the front door like nothing had happened. Her hair was different, lighter, as if she'd spent days in the sun. She smelled like salt water and a cologne I didn't recognize. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. She tossed her bag onto the couch. "With Rachel. Girls' trip." A lie. A test. I should have played along, but the exhaustion, the fear, the weeks of careful planning, it all cracked open at once. "There is no Rachel," I said. The air in the room turned to ice. She stopped unpacking. Slowly, she turned to face me. "What did you just say?" I held my ground. "I talked to your ex. He told me everything." Her expression shifted. First shock, then fury, then something far worse. Amusement. A slow, terrifying smile crept across her face. "Oh, baby," she sighed, shaking her head like I was a child who disappointed her. "You weren't supposed to do that." She stepped closer. I stepped back. For the first time, I saw her clearly, not as the woman I loved, but as something else. Something calculating. Something dangerous. "You think you're so smart," she murmured, tilting her head, "but you don't even know what you've just started." That was the moment I knew I had to leave. Not tomorrow. Not after one more conversation. Now I waited until she fell asleep that night. Then I packed a single bag, passport, cash, the hard drive with all my evidence. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter with a note. Now I get it. The door didn't make a sound when I closed it behind me, but I still ran. The first 3 nights I slept in my car outside my brother's apartment, too ashamed to knock. When he finally spotted me through the window on the 4th morning, he didn't ask questions, just opened the door and pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. She called 47 times that first week. I blocked the number after the 12th voicemail, the one where she switched from screaming to that soft, broken whisper that used to make me forgive anything. "Please, baby," she'd whimpered. "Just come home so I can explain." My therapist called it trauma bonding. My brother called it what it was. That bitch is psychotic. The police report came next. A missing persons filing that listed me as potentially suicidal. When I showed the officers my cloud folder of evidence, they exchanged a look I couldn't decipher. "We'll make a note," the older cop said, closing his notebook with finality. "But unless she threatens you directly?" Her mother found me at the coffee shop near my brother's place 2 months later. I nearly spilled my Americano when she slid into the opposite chair. "You look like hell," she observed, stirring sugar into her tea with precise movements. "She's telling everyone you had a breakdown, that you abandoned her." I laughed, a raw, ugly sound. "Let me guess, just like her ex did." The spoon stilled. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw genuine emotion there. Sorrow. "You were braver than the last one. He waited 5 years before he ran." She pushed a business card across the table. "My lawyer. She's expecting your call." The pieces came together slowly. The Rachel messages were part of a pattern. She'd invented entire relationships to gaslight me, just like she'd done to him. The bank withdrawals? Payments to a private investigator who'd been tracking both of us for months. At our final court appearance, she wore white, some twisted parody of our wedding day. When the judge granted the restraining order, she didn't react, just stared at me with that same terrifying smile and mouthed, "This isn't over." I changed my name the following month, moved across the country. Still, sometimes at night I'll bolt awake, convinced I hear her key turning in the lock. The therapist says that'll fade with time. I'm not so sure. Some silences aren't meant to be broken. 1 year to the day after I left, the email arrived. The subject line, "You were right about Rachel," made my hands shake so badly I nearly dropped my phone. It was from an address I didn't recognize, just random letters and numbers. But I knew. God help me, I knew. I should have deleted it. Burned the laptop, called my lawyer. Instead, at 3 a.m. with a bottle of bourbon, I clicked open. Attached were photos, dozens of them. A blonde woman, early 30s, athletic build, entering hotels, parking garages, always glancing over her shoulder. Then the screenshots. Text conversations identical to the ones I'd found, same phrasing, same pet names, just a different name at the top. Jessica, Amanda, Sarah. The final image was a driver's license. Rachel Marie Whitaker. Last known address, Portland, Oregon. Missing since 2014, 3 months before my wife's crazy ex had supposedly ghosted her. The email's body contained just 5 words. She wasn't always my daughter. I drove to the police station at dawn, the printed photos slippery with my sweat. The detective who took my statement had tired eyes and a wedding ring worn thin by time. When I showed him Rachel's missing persons report, his posture changed. Subtle but unmistakable. The shift from humoring a paranoid divorcee to hunting something far darker. "You're sure this is the same woman from your texts?" he asked, tapping the photo. "I'd bet my life on it." He studied me for a long moment. "You already did." They found Rachel's remains 6 weeks later, buried beneath a storage unit rented in my wife's maiden name. Dental records confirmed it. The news vans camped outside my apartment for days, but I didn't give interviews. Couldn't. Not when every reporter's question carried the same unspoken implication. "How did you survive?" Her mother called me the night of the arrest. No hello, just static and a whisper. I tried to warn them all. The trial starts next month. I'm the star witness, though the prosecutor says they don't need me. They have the journals now, dozens of them, meticulously documenting every lie, every manipulation, every carefully staged relationship, designed to drive men to the edge. Sometimes I wonder about the others, the ones who didn't escape, the ones whose names might be buried in those journals, their fates reduced to cryptic entries in her elegant handwriting. The detective asked me once why I think she let me go that final night. Didn't chase me down or drag me back like the others. I didn't have an answer then. I think I do now. She was already hunting her next Rachel.